All right, welcome to the Hawk Speaker Series. We're here with our guest, Dr. Maloney, professor at FIU, School of Business. Uh, and I'm Lucas, and
I'm Breno. Angel. I'm Abdiel. I'm Harry.
Yeah. And I'm Greg Maloney.
yeah. Um, so tell us what you do and
Okay, so what I do is I work at FIU. I am a professor in the marketing and logistics department. I teach classes in both marketing and logistics. On top of that, I am also the director of the Masters in Logistics and Supply Chain program that we have in the College of Business. And I also am the director and oversee the new um, pay cargo logistics program that we are building right now based off of the support that we're receiving from local business pay cargo that's really into kind of building the community and helping to create more logistics resources for South Florida. So that's what I do.
so you do.
Yep.
So back to the professor out, like we can go into the more logistics later, but how did you start off in being a professor? Like what made you want to become a professor and what were the steps that you had to take
Sure.
to get there?
So my path to becoming a professor is not the traditional route. Typically, the best way to be, and the more common way to become a professor is you go pretty much straight from doing your undergrad and a master's degree into a PhD program without doing years of work experience in industry. That's really the best and the quickest route to get there, and kind of the one that a lot of programs prefer. Um, uh, it is not the preference of most programs for people to have lots of like industry work experience, just because industry and academia will kind of look at things from different lenses. So they don't like it when people are kind of used to doing things in the industry way. They like people to look at things kind of like outside of the box. So that's the ideal way to do it. And for anyone who's interested in a job as a professor, and if you're smart and creative, it's a wonderful life. You can get a job as a tenured professor. You can make some really good money. Like six-figure salaries. You don't have to teach that many classes because you're also supposed to be spending time focused on your research. But if you're good at research and putting that stuff together, you can have a wonderful life. You can work on stuff that's really interesting to you, kind of set your own hours, and really have kind of like a minimal teaching load doing stuff like that. So again, that's not really my situation, and I didn't take that typical path. I ended up working in industry for 20 years or so, and then at that point, I was interacting with someone from the university who said they needed a class that they were going to teach a class. They wanted an adjunct professor with my kind of expertise to teach the class, someone with good industry experience. And I went and I taught a class and I really enjoyed it. So then, in order to make that more permanent, I ended up getting my PhD. So you don't have to have a PhD to be like a full-time instructor at a university, but it's helpful and it helps with like the credentialing of the programs. So universities always prefer it, even if it's not for these big research positions. But so I ended up doing that so I could get into this role. My life is different than your typical research professor because of what I talked about earlier. I oversee the master's program. I oversee kind of like these efforts that we're putting in place to expand the logistics program and create more awareness and kind of drive the brand for FIU within logistics. So, and I also teach more classes than a typical research professor. So I have a wonderful life also. I'm not saying that I don't have a great life, but it's just different from that normal research professor where you're spending really a large amount of your time working on research. You don't have a big responsibility as far as classes go. I teach more classes. I don't spend much time on research, but I do spend a lot of time doing things to help grow the program, like working with your awesome teacher over here, Mr. Acosta, and trying to interact with more high school students that might be interested in getting a logistics degree, working more with industry and local businesses, just to kind of create more connections between the real business world and FIU and our students.
So
Let me ask you something. Now that you took us down the path that you took to get to being a professor at FIU, like, did you know straight from the get-go after high school that you wanted to be a professor, or was there anything else on your mind on doing in college?
Yeah, no, I didn't even think of it as a possibility at that point. I think, I knew that obviously professors existed at that point. I had never thought of it as a career, and I think probably a big part of it was because at that point I thought that professors don't make much money, and I was focused on trying to make, how much money can I make? At 17, 18, you're thinking, how do I afford that car that I want, or how do I, afford a nice apartment or nice vacations or whatever. So that was a kind of a big concern of mine that made me write off professor as a potential. I would say to anyone who's thinking about it right now, professors can make a lot of money. Like top professors at top universities could be making $500,000 a year. There's a lot of money to be made. And if they do really awesome research that's relevant to industry, then they can make even more money consulting, because then companies are going to hire them to tap into the knowledge that they gain from their research.
So getting into the consulting thing.
Uh-huh.
So if you can more on what you do specifically, if you can explain more the FIU and the whole, how the logistics department is run, and what type of research a logistics professor would do in the world of business, not science related. What research is there to be done within the business program?
So the answer is there's a lot of different types of research. Trying to think, we've got a couple of really strong research professors right now, and one of them focuses on purchasing and procurement. That's his big focus of research, that involves a lot of things like policies and different government policies that are in place in different countries, and how things like that might affect the efficiency of companies procuring products and things like that. We have other professors that do research. One of them, I think she focuses mainly on technology and how newer technologies are creating more efficiencies within industry, within businesses. We've got some other professors that focus on import-export and international type things, and how customs regulations and things like that can make companies work better or worse. And there's another really interesting set of research that one of our professors is working on that's about memory recall with tasks, which is something that is very important within the logistics space. So where you've got procedures that it could involve 100 different things. And what are the best type of employees or managers as far as overseeing those types of processes? So there's uh, the things that I mentioned right there are a few things that our professors are working on. But to your question of what could you do research on, that's one of the great things to me about logistics is careers or research or anything else related to it. Logistics isn't like this one specific thing. Um, and not to pick on other groups here, but let's take a look at like accounting. Okay, so if you get a degree in accounting, which is a great degree to get, FIU's got an awesome accounting program, and you can get your CPA through after getting your degree within FIU, and you can end up being, a professional in an accounting position, make good money, but all accountants have some things in that are similar, right? You all have to know how to balance a ledger. You all have to know, kind of basic, math type of things. And there's different rules and regulations for different industries, but there's a lot of similarities for everyone that is in accounting. If you're in logistics, you could be doing anything from, managing the purchases of products that go into your manufacturing process, to managing inventory at a warehouse, to designing routes of transportation to get products from China over to, Dubuque, Iowa, or something like that. You could be doing forecasting. You could be implementing technologies like drones or AI. There's so many different areas within logistics to work in that to me, it's a really cool space for students to look at because you don't have to like commit to one specific area. You can make it more general. So back to your original question, all of those areas also need research.
Yeah.
So there's people doing research on AI, and that's considered logistics research right now. That's really cool stuff. There's people doing research on drones and how that's going to create, more efficiencies for delivering products. There's some really cool stuff that you could be doing research on. And that's the other great thing about being a professor, a research professor, is it's not like you go into a job and your boss says, hey, go do this research. You have the freedom to choose what you want to do the research on. Now, some people that's more difficult. It's like, well, I gotta come up with it myself. But if you're creative and you want to kind of be able to decide what you want to work on, wow, what an awesome career to go into.
Would you prefer it that way of getting the projects that you do, or do you prefer doing like making things that are from you, not from your boss that he hands down?
I prefer the second one, the creative side. There's something that's comfortable about knowing that, hey, you just have to go to work and someone's going to give you these steps and you do that. And maybe earlier on in my career, I liked that a lot so that I could then go home and, play video games on the weekend or something like that and not really have to worry about it. Whereas definitely at this point in my career, I like the creativity and being able to kind of choose what I need to work on to an extent, right? Obviously, there's certain things that I have to deliver, but there's also other things that I've got freedom to, how do I want to accomplish this? And a lot of jobs and a lot of industries have some freedom like that.
Yeah.
But I feel like being in this space in an academic type of career, you do get a lot more freedom.
So creativity is the way to a freer route.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So I'm back on the logistics/business professor. I would think that in like the world of business, like, you hear a stereotype that like it's hard to teach business in a classroom setting.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that most professors, like business professors, did they go that route that we talked about earlier, where it was, undergrad, graduate school, PhD, or did they do, bachelor's and then they went into the workforce, like not for the majority of professors, but specifically targeting the business slash logistics area of professor, do you think that those professors have more of a field? They need more field experience to teach their class effectively.
So most of the really good research professors follow that approach of you kind of just go straight into the PhD without getting a significant amount of experience. And I think part of the reason also with that is in order to be a really good research professor, you got to be really good at that thing, which is focusing on your research and really just kind of putting your head down and blocking out the rest of the world. Because some of these some people work on the same research for decades. Some papers take years to get published. So it's something that you really need to have like very specific skills to do well in that. Our program, the professors within our program, is a really good blend. We've got some really great research professors that maybe don't have as much industry experience, but have some really awesome research that they've been able to build. And then we have a bunch of other professors on the other side that are not research professors, but are all about the industry experience. And so our programs have a good blend of that. And even a lot of our professors that have industry experience also have PhDs and do research. We've got a professor at FIU that has worked at Amazon, FedEx, all these big logistics businesses, and he also has his PhD and publishes every once in a while. We have another professor that is a customs broker, and so works with businesses doing imports and exports, and he also has a PhD and is working on research also. So our program, at least, I feel has a great blend of that kind of forward-thinking research side that's really kind of looking more out on the horizon of where things should be in the future, and some professors that have really great, relevant, today experience that can not only tell you, hey, this is how it works theoretically, but this is how it works in practice, and this is how people actually do it.
Would you say that your students in the classes that you teach have some kind of effect on your creativity and the research you would like to do?
Do the students affect my creativity? Sure. I'm trying to think. I can't think of a direct path to it other than just, sometimes, my students just inspire me. When you see what other people are dealing with in their lives and their careers and how people overcome what they're dealing with, that's inspirational to me. And I also think a lot of students, especially the newer ones, maybe just look at things differently, might look at things from a different angle than I would. And so a lot of times we'll talk about things in class where they'll just think about things in a different way than I would, and that gets me to start thinking things differently. So yeah, I would say, yeah, I am definitely inspired by my students.
Can we talk a little bit about your past, like your high school, your college, and how you like?
Sure.
Yeah.
What would you like to know? You want me to start with, my high school, I went to high school, so I'm not from Miami. You guys all from Miami?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I didn't grow up here. That's why we were talking about like the colada. Like I love colada. It's not something that they had where I grew up. I only speak a little bit of Spanish. I should speak more, but I learned to speak enough Spanish when I came down here because I smelled all this wonderful food. I was like, wow, I got to learn what all this food is and then learn how to order. So I'm not from here, but I love it here. I grew up in the Midwest, very different from South Florida. I went to high school in St. Louis and then in Chicago.
You went
And
to high school in
went to
Chicago.
high school, yeah.
Would you prefer the high school in St. Louis or Chicago? What would you say which one was?
The one in Chicago, I think I enjoyed more. Um, it was, it was just nicer. I don't know any other way to describe it. It was nicer, a little bit smaller, so it was a little more of a focus. Like you get that individual touch. But they were both great. They were both great schools, and both public schools. So I'm a public school result of. So there I went. So that's where I did my high school. At that time, again, I didn't know. I was thinking about what I wanted to do. In high school, my senior year of high school, I wanted to be a architect. So I applied to universities to get in the architecture program. I ended up coming down here to go to University of Miami and got into their architect program, which is a wonderful program. I kind of sometimes wonder what it would be like if I'd stuck with it. But
Do you regret not going down that path?
I think regret is an interesting word. I don't think I really have like regrets in life. I look back on things and it's like, wow, if only I bought Microsoft stock in the 80s and Amazon stock in the 90s, then I wouldn't have to work anymore. But I wouldn't say that I regret it. There's just I tend to look at things differently that way.
Okay, so let's say we look at it from another point of view. Let's say you could go back in time right now and change the route you took. Would you change it?
No, I think I like my route. That's a good logistics pun, right? I like the route I took to get to my logistics career. But it was an interesting path. So like I didn't go, I started with architecture. I realized maybe this isn't really what I want to do. I then ended up in psychology, and I really enjoyed studying psychology. But then when I got close to the end of my undergraduate degree, I realized I liked psychology because I liked learning about how people work, but I didn't really like the idea of like helping other people solve their problems.
Yeah.
So that kind of veered me down a different path. I then looked into marketing because marketing to me is logistics of business, not logistics, psychology of business. So I thought that was really cool. And so I got involved with marketing. There was a lot of technology stuff happening at the time, so I ended up getting a master's in computer science. So I did a lot of different things. And I ended up working in industry for a while and then found, like what you were asking earlier, this opportunity to teach, and saw this as a great way to get into something that's a little more fulfilling. Working in industry is great. If you work for a great company, which I did, I worked for a couple of great companies. It's also great because you can make a lot of money, and having a big bank account, it can be very fulfilling at times. But there's also other things that are important in life, and like coming here to talk to your guys' class, like that's a cool thing for me. I like being able to give advice to people, advice that I didn't get when I was younger, and I probably would have taken different paths if I had gotten different sets of advice. But at the end of the day, I'm happy with where I am, and I think everyone needs to kind of go down their own path and find their own way.
What advice would you give newly high school students that are about to graduate on picking a career? Because with me, I struggle. I'm struggling on if I should take medicine, but then I look at what doctors do and what they go through every day, and I'm not sure. Then I also think about veterinarian. There's so many opportunities that I don't know which route to go through.
Sure. Well, those are very similar, though, right?
Yeah,
One,
veterinarian and doctor.
one you're stitching up a human, one you're stitching up a dog
Yeah.
or someone's lizard or something like that. But it's all biology
Yes.
and stuff. So if that's something you're interested in, it sounds like that's a good space for you. So what advice would I give to students today? Number one, look into a career that can provide the lifestyle that you want. So, so I'm saying that in a very general way. I'm trying not to say try to pick a job that's going to make the most money, because money isn't everything.
Yeah, because you want to do a job that pays you well, but then you're suffering every day to wake up.
Yeah, if that's your case, if you want to have a life with fancy cars and nice vacations and stuff like that, then you need a career that'll support that. Obviously, going into medicine is one that would do that, but also make sure that it's something that is interesting to you. If you like biology, something like that would be also something great to go into. But on top of that, the other thing that I would say is don't expect to find any easy, like winning the lottery type things.
Yeah.
You know?
That's once in a million.
Yeah, and a lot of people today are looking at this stuff where, let me get into passive income type opportunities. Passive income this. And when I ask students, well, what is that all about? It's like, well, I don't really want to work. I'd rather get something where money will be made and then I can hang out at the beach kind of thing. And I'll tell you, all that stuff that you look up on the internet or TikTok or YouTube or whatever that talks about passive income, the people that do well at those are still working hard at it. If you're buying real estate and you're expecting then that real estate is going to create income, if you have tenants, you still have to work and make sure that those places are taken care of and that you're on top of things. There's still work related to it. And you are going to get out of your career what you put into it. So that's the most important advice that I can give students today is work hard. Work hard, expect with hard work that you'll get good results from it, and then enjoy the fruits of your labor. I work hard. I've worked hard for a very long time, and now I get to do nice things with my family. But it's not because I just sat around and kind of prayed for it to come or hoped for it to come. I actually, busted my butt to try to build something to create, good level of income. And if you find something that you're good at and you commit to being, organized and a hard worker and commit to being excellent at whatever you want to go into, that is ultimately what is going to create success, create a good financial situation, and make you happy. Because we as humans, we want to accomplish something, right? Yeah. And being in a position where you're accomplishing stuff like, your teacher, Mr. Costa, is building all of this great stuff for your school. And I'm sure he goes home at the end of the day and feels good about the things that he's doing. Not bad. He's doing a lot of great stuff. Accomplishing things and working hard and actually getting that sense of fulfillment out of getting things done, I think is one of the most important things to plan for in your career.
So going back to that you mentioned these new programs, you're actually seeing us from a new set. This is the Miami Springs Senior High School aerospace program. These are actually airplane seats. And if any student that is in the school and wants to check out the class, talk to a Cosin, he'll let you in. But I feel like that was a great talk.
Yeah, it was great talking to you guys.
Tune in next time. Yeah.